It was a bright and peaceful afternoon at Oakwood Park. The sun was shining, kids were playing on the swings, and families were enjoying picnics. Under a tall oak tree, a teenager named Jordan sat alone at a picnic table. He wore a blue hoodie and jeans, and beside him was a worn-out backpack. Jordan wasn't playing or running around like the other kids. Instead, he was focused on his sketchbook, drawing carefully with a pencil. Jordan loved art more than anything. He often came to the park to find new ideas for his drawings. Today, he was working on a project for his school art class. He wanted to capture the life of the park, the tall trees, the running children, and the smiling faces. With every line he drew, he felt proud. He was creating something beautiful. Not far from Jordan, a woman named Karen sat on a bench. She noticed Jordan sitting by himself and frowned. She didn't see the sketchbook or the backpack. All she saw was a teenager she didn't recognize. Instead of minding her own business, Karen grew suspicious. She kept looking over at Jordan, her mind racing with worry that had no real reason behind it. After a few minutes, Karen picked up her phone and made a call. She spoke in a low voice, her eyes glued to Jordan the entire time. She told the police that there was a suspicious young man at the park. She gave a shaky description and said she felt unsafe, even though Jordan had not spoken to anyone and was sitting quietly. Jordan had no idea someone was calling the police on him. He stayed focused on his drawing, adding little details to the trees and the playground. He smiled to himself, thinking how this would be one of his best sketches yet. Suddenly, the peaceful sound of laughter and birds was broken by the wail of sirens. Jordan looked up, confused. Two police cars pulled up quickly, and two officers stepped out. The families nearby grew quiet. Some parents pulled their children a little closer. A few people took out their phones and started recording, sensing something wasn't right. The officers walked toward Jordan. He felt his heart start to race. He had done nothing wrong, yet here they were, approaching him like he was a problem. Jordan stayed seated, holding his sketchbook tightly. He looked up at them, trying to stay calm. One officer asked him what he was doing at the park. Jordan replied politely that he was working on an art project for school. He showed them his sketchbook, flipping through pages filled with drawings. The officers looked at each other but didn't seem convinced. From the bench, Karen watched the scene unfold, her arms crossed tightly. She didn't say a word, just stood there watching. The once happy park now felt tense and uncomfortable. Jordan sat there, unsure of what would happen next, but knowing he had to stay calm. Little did anyone know, things were about to change very quickly. Jordan sat quietly at the picnic table, his hands resting on his sketchbook. The two police officers stood in front of him, their faces serious. One officer asked again why Jordan was at the park. Jordan answered politely, explaining that he was working on a school project. He even pointed to his backpack, where his school books were sticking out. The officers listened, but still looked unsure. They asked Jordan for his ID. Jordan nodded and reached slowly into his backpack, careful not to make any sudden moves. He pulled out his school ID card and handed it over. The officers studied it for a moment. Meanwhile, more people in the park started paying attention. Some whispered to each other. A few parents shook their heads sadly, while others pulled out their phones to record what was happening. Everyone could see that Jordan was just a kid doing nothing wrong. Karen stood nearby, her arms crossed and her mouth pressed into a tight line. She did not come closer. She stayed near her bench, watching like she was waiting for something bad to happen. But there was nothing bad to see. Jordan was calm, polite, and clearly no threat to anyone. One officer started asking Jordan more questions. Where did he live? What school did he go to? Why was he alone? Jordan answered each question honestly and respectfully. He tried not to show how nervous he was, but inside, he felt like his heart was beating too fast. The second officer seemed less sure about the situation. He looked at Jordan's drawings, flipping through the pages. The pictures were full of happy scenes, kids playing, trees swaying, birds flying. The officer's face softened a little, but he didn't say anything yet. Jordan could feel the tension in the air growing thicker. He knew he needed help. Carefully, he reached for his phone and called his mom. He kept his voice low and steady. "Mom, can you come to the park? I need you," he said. He ended the call quickly and looked back up at the officers. He stayed sitting, his hands visible, doing everything he had been taught to do when dealing with situations like this. Minutes felt like hours. Jordan kept glancing toward the parking lot, hoping to see his mom's car. The officers continued to ask small questions, but it was clear they were waiting too, unsure of what to do next. Some of the people standing around began to speak up. One woman said loudly, "He's just drawing. He's not bothering anyone." A man nodded and added, "This is wrong." Still, the officers didn't leave. They stayed, standing over Jordan, while Karen watched from the side. Then at last, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Jordan's heart lifted. He recognized the car right away. His mom had arrived, and with her arrival, the entire atmosphere of the park was about to change. The black SUV came to a smooth stop near the picnic area. The door opened quickly, and a woman stepped out. It was Jordan's mother, Monica Lewis. She was dressed neatly in a dark suit and carried herself with quiet strength. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp and full of purpose. As she walked toward the scene, the crowd seemed to part for her. People whispered to each other, sensing that something important was about to happen. Jordan saw his mom and felt a wave of relief. He stayed seated, just like she had taught him, and waited. Monica approached the officers with a steady, confident walk. She stopped right in front of them and asked, in a firm but polite voice, "What seems to be the problem here, officers?" One of the officers cleared his throat and explained that they had received a call about a suspicious individual at the park. He glanced at Jordan, then back at Monica, looking a little unsure now. Monica listened carefully. She did not raise her voice or look angry, but everyone could feel the power in her presence. When the officer finished speaking, Monica calmly asked, "And what exactly has my son done wrong?" The officers hesitated. They looked at each other, then at Jordan, then back at Monica. It was clear they had no real answer. Jordan had not broken any rules. He was simply drawing in his notebook, just like any other kid might do on a sunny afternoon. Nearby, Karen shifted uncomfortably on her bench. She realized that the situation was not turning out the way she had expected. She looked away, pretending to be busy on her phone, but everyone knew she was listening. Monica pulled out her wallet and showed the officers her attorney-eyed. "I am Monica Lewis," she said clearly. "I am an attorney, and this young man you are questioning is my son. He has every right to be here." There was a heavy silence for a moment. The second officer, the one who had looked at Jordan's drawings, spoke up softly. "He hasn't done anything wrong," he admitted. Some people in the crowd started nodding and murmuring in agreement. A woman nearby said, "This never should have happened." Another man added, "He's just a kid." The officer who had been more suspicious cleared his throat again and said, "You're free to go, ma'am. And your son, too." Monica nodded once but did not leave right away. She turned slowly and looked at Karen, who avoided her gaze. Monica didn't have to say a word. The truth was already clear to everyone watching. Jordan stood up carefully, his sketchbook still in his hand. He walked over to his mother, who placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Together, they started to leave the park, but not before giving a lasting impression of strength, calm, and dignity. This moment would stay with everyone who witnessed it for a long time. As Monica and Jordan walked away from the picnic table, the feeling in the park began to shift. People who had been silent before now started to speak out loud. A few even clapped quietly, showing their support for Jordan and his mother. It was clear that many people knew Jordan had done nothing wrong from the start. But Monica wasn't finished yet. She stopped a few feet away from the officers and pulled out her phone. She calmly dialed a number and spoke in a low, steady voice. Jordan stood beside her, watching and listening. He could hear his mother explaining the situation to someone in authority, giving clear details about what had just happened. While Monica was on the phone, Karen stayed frozen on the bench. She looked smaller now, unsure of what to do. The confidence she had earlier was gone. She glanced around and noticed that many people were staring at her, their faces full of disappointment and judgment. After finishing her call, Monica turned back to the officers. "Your superior will be arriving shortly," she said firmly. The officers nodded, understanding that the situation was no longer in their control. If you are finding this story powerful, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that make you think and inspire change. Jordan felt a mix of emotions. He was proud of his mother, but also sad that it had come to this. He never wanted to be the center of this kind of attention. All he had wanted was a peaceful afternoon to draw and enjoy the fresh air. Soon, a larger police vehicle pulled into the parking lot. A senior officer, wearing a different badge, stepped out. He walked over to the group with a serious but respectful look. Monica introduced herself again, clearly explaining her son's rights and how they had been treated unfairly. The senior officer listened carefully. He looked at Jordan, then at the two officers, then back at Monica. He apologized to Jordan right there in front of everyone. He said that Jordan had every right to be at the park and that no one should be questioned simply for sitting quietly and drawing. Jordan nodded silently. He appreciated the apology, but knew that an apology could not erase the fear and hurt he had felt. The senior officer also spoke to the two officers who had questioned Jordan, giving them a quiet but serious reminder about proper procedures and fair treatment. As the situation settled down, some families came over to Jordan and Monica. They offered kind words, saying things like, "You handled that so well," and "Your son is amazing." Monica thanked them kindly but kept her focus on Jordan, who still seemed deep in thought. Before leaving the park completely, Monica and Jordan walked past Karen. She kept her head down, not daring to meet their eyes. She knew she had been wrong, and now everyone else knew it too. Monica held her son's hand firmly as they headed toward their car, both of them stronger for what they had just faced together. Monica and Jordan reached their car, but before getting inside, Monica paused. She turned around and looked at the park one more time. She could feel the weight of what had just happened. She knew that walking away without saying anything more would not be enough. Something had to be made clear, not just for her son, but for everyone watching. Monica took a deep breath and walked back toward the officers and the small crowd that had stayed behind. Jordan followed a few steps behind her, holding his sketchbook tightly. His drawings were now more than art. They were proof that he had been there for something good, not for trouble. Monica stood tall in front of the group. Her voice was steady and calm as she spoke. "This is my son," she said, her hand resting gently on Jordan's shoulder. "He came here today to create something beautiful. He came here to do what every young person should be allowed to do: learn, create, and enjoy the world around him." The crowd listened closely. Even the officers stood still, giving her their full attention. "We cannot let fear and assumptions lead us to harm our children," Monica continued. "We must do better. We must see each other clearly, with kindness and with understanding." Karen stayed on the bench, her face turned away, but it was clear she was listening too. Her earlier fear had now turned into shame. Jordan looked up at his mother with wide eyes. He felt proud but also overwhelmed. He had never seen her like this, speaking so powerfully not just for him, but for many others too. Monica ended her short speech with a simple message: every child deserves to feel safe. Every child deserves to be seen for who they really are. The people around them clapped quietly, some even wiping their eyes. It was not a loud or wild applause, but it was full of respect. The senior officer stepped forward and spoke again. "We are sorry, ma'am, and we will make sure this never happens again." He looked serious, and for the first time, Jordan believed he truly meant it. Monica nodded once, accepting the words, but she knew real change would take more than just promises. Still, this was a start. She and Jordan finally made their way to their car. As they drove out of the park, Jordan looked out the window, watching the park grow smaller behind him. He thought about everything that had just happened. It was more than unfair, but it had also shown him something important: how strong he could be when standing with the right people beside him. Monica reached over and gave his hand a gentle squeeze. No words were needed between them. Jordan understood that no matter what came their way, they would always face it together, with courage and with dignity. And the park, once just a place for quiet sketches, had now become the place where Jordan learned the power of standing tall. As they drove home, Jordan sat quietly, staring out of the window. Trees and houses passed by, but his mind stayed back at the park. He thought about how quickly a simple afternoon had turned into something he would never forget. Monica kept glancing over at her son. She knew he was deep in thought. She also knew that moments like this could either break a young spirit or make it stronger. She was determined to help Jordan see the strength inside himself. After a few minutes, Monica spoke softly. "You did everything right today, Jordan." Jordan turned to look at her. He wasn't sure he believed it. "I was scared," he admitted. "Being scared doesn't mean you did anything wrong," Monica said. "It means you are human, but you stayed calm, you stayed respectful, and you stayed true to who you are. That takes real strength." Jordan nodded slowly. He had felt small and powerless when the officers first came up to him. But now, hearing his mother's words, he started to understand that being calm and respectful had been his way of holding on to this power. When they reached home, Jordan carried his sketchbook inside carefully, like it was something precious. He set it down on the kitchen table and flipped through the pages. The drawings of the park were still there, untouched by the trouble that had followed. Monica came over and looked at the drawings with him. She pointed to one of a large oak tree with kids playing underneath. "This is beautiful," she said. "It shows what you see in the world, not fear, not hate, but life, joy, and hope." Jordan smiled a little. For the first time since the park, he felt a sense of pride bubbling up inside him. Later that evening, Monica got a call from a local community leader. Word about what happened at the park had already spread. People had seen the videos posted online, and many were angry about how Jordan had been treated. The leader asked if Monica and Jordan would be willing to speak at a community meeting the following week. Monica looked at Jordan and asked, "Would you want to do that?" "Only if you feel ready." Jordan thought about it. Speaking in front of a crowd made him nervous, but then he remembered how many people at the park had supported him. He realized that his story might help others too. He nodded slowly. "I'll do it." Monica smiled warmly. "We'll do it together." That night, Jordan sat at his desk, his sketchbook open in front of him. He started a new drawing, this one different from all the others. It showed a group of people standing together, strong and united. In the middle was a boy holding a pencil like it was a tool for change. Jordan realized that his drawings could be more than just art. They could be his voice. And he was ready to use it. The day of the community meeting arrived. Jordan woke up early, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. He dressed neatly in a button-up shirt and jeans, wanting to look respectful but still like himself. Monica smiled as she watched him get ready, proud of how far he had come since that difficult day at the park. They drove to the community center, a large building with glass doors and colorful murals painted on the outside. People were already gathering inside when they arrived. Jordan could see families, teachers, and even some of the people who had been at the park that day. Monica squeezed his shoulder gently. "Remember," she said, "just tell your story. Speak from your heart." Jordan nodded, gripping his sketchbook tightly in one hand. It made him feel braver somehow, like he carried a piece of himself with him. Inside the hall, chairs were lined up neatly, and a small stage stood at the front. Jordan and Monica were invited to sit near the front row. The room buzzed with quiet conversation until the leader of the community stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," the leader said. "Today, we are here to listen and to learn. We are honored to have Jordan Lewis and his mother, Monica Lewis, here to share their experience." There was a soft wave of applause. Jordan's heart pounded, but he stood up when it was time, walking with his mother to the stage. Standing under the lights, Jordan felt small for a moment, but then he looked out at the faces in the crowd, people who were there to support him, not to judge him. He took a deep breath. "My name is Jordan," he began. His voice was a little shaky, but he kept going. "I went to the park last week to work on my art project for school. I was just sitting at a table, drawing." He paused, glancing at Monica, who gave him an encouraging nod. "Someone called the police on me," Jordan continued. "They said I was suspicious, but I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just being me." He held up the sketchbook and showed the crowd a page filled with drawings of the park, the trees, the swings, the families laughing. "This is what I was doing," he said. "This is who I am." The room was silent, hanging on his every word. "I learned that even when you do nothing wrong, People might still see you the wrong way. But I also learned that you can stand up for yourself. You don't have to be loud or angry. You can be strong just by telling the truth. The crowd broke into gentle applause. Some people stood, showing their respect. Monica spoke next, reminding everyone of the importance of seeing each person as an individual, not as a stereotype or a fear. As Jordan and Monica left the stage, Jordan felt lighter. He had faced his fear, and he had spoken his truth. He knew this was only the beginning. After the meeting, many people came up to Jordan and Monica to thank them. Some shared their own stories of feeling judged or treated unfairly. Others simply wanted to shake Jordan's hand and tell him how brave he was. Jordan listened carefully to each person. He realized that his experience at the park was not just about him. It was about many others too. By speaking up, he had helped others feel seen and heard. As they left the community center, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in soft colors of orange and pink. Jordan looked up at it and felt a quiet sense of peace. Today had been hard, but it had also been good. It had taught him that even in tough moments, he could find his voice and use it for something better. On the way home, Monica and Jordan stopped for ice cream at a small shop. They sat outside at a little table, sharing a bowl of vanilla and chocolate swirl. They laughed about how nervous Jordan had been before speaking and how proud they were now. "You were amazing up there," Monica said. Jordan smiled shyly. "I was scared at first," he admitted. "Being scared just means you care," Monica said. "And caring is one of the strongest things you can do." Later that evening, when they got home, Jordan opened his sketchbook again. This time, he didn't just draw the trees or the playground. He started sketching people standing together, helping each other, speaking out. He added details carefully, wanting every figure to look strong and proud. His drawings told a new story now, not just about a bad day at the park, but about a day when he stood up for himself, a day when he learned that even one voice could make a difference. Word about Jordan's speech traveled fast. Soon, a local newspaper called Monica to ask if they could write a story about Jordan's experience. They wanted to highlight not just the wrong that had been done, but the way Jordan had handled it, with calm, with courage, and with truth. Monica and Jordan agreed, knowing that sharing the story might help even more people. Maybe it would make someone think twice before judging another person. Maybe it would help another young boy or girl believe in their own strength. A few days later, Jordan saw his name in the newspaper, right next to a picture of him holding his sketchbook. He felt a little shy but also proud. He understood now that change didn't always come from big speeches or protests. Sometimes it started with a quiet boy in a park, doing what he loved. As Jordan placed his sketchbook on his desk that night, he looked around his room and smiled. He was still the same boy who loved to draw. But now he was also something more. He was someone who knew his worth, someone who had stood up, even when it was hard. And he knew he always would.